Let me tell you a little story. A pregnant woman books a stay at a haunted inn. No, better yet, a group of misfits finds themselves lost at sea, forced to face their deepest fears at the hand of a terrible sea creature. All in a day's work for the legendary medicine seller and his exorcising blade. These are the tales of the Mononoke. Mononoke is an episodic suspenseful mystery show about hunting monsters. Pretty cool concept, but made even better and freakier by the insanely detailed presentation. The show hardly ever has blank space and tends to bombard you with a feeling of overstimulation, which tends to heighten the already stressful nature of the plot. Each self-contained story has 2 or 3 acts across multiple episodes, usually taking its time to introduce characters and the setting before delving into the nature of the monster or Mononoke of that story. I found this to be rather refreshing and gives each story a bit more breathing room than is typically allowed in these kinds of episodic shows. It also helps to introduce enticing cliffhangers that keep you coming back for more. It ultimately makes each tale feel more like a short film and makes things easier to watch in short bursts. Now, each story revolves around a different kind of Mononoke, which are the incarnation of the twisted grudges of the deceased. There are countless variations, and left to their own devices, can cause hauntings and even risk killing humans. Enter Kasuriyuri, the medicine seller, the protagonist and only recurring character as far as I'm aware. He's a mysterious character who always seems to have the answers, but rarely shares more than others need to know. Wielding the exorcism sword, a Mononoke-seeking scale, and a supply of all-purpose medicinal ingredients, Kasuriyuri travels the land in search of monsters to slay. The trick with Mononoke, however, is that in order to exorcise them, you must first gain an intimate knowledge about them, which requires prolonged exposure to the deadly creatures. Sherlock Holmes style, our hero determines what form the Mononoke has taken, the truth of what has caused its creation, and the purpose for which the monster seeks. If he can figure out those 3 things, he can put the monster to rest. This setup leads to some pretty interesting scenarios and high-stakes investigations. It becomes a bit formulaic after that point, especially since each arc makes sure the audience is aware of the 3 crucial bits of info and repeats each step a few more times than I think is necessary. That aside, the narratives are really compelling and do a great job of making the viewer feel uneasy without resorting to jump scares or grotesque imagery. The way the show accomplishes this is through long scenes of eerie silence accompanied by the trippy framing and artwork. And when things really ramp up, it's more common for the environment to transform rather than some monster to come out and go ooga booga. Some of the more subtle realizations that things aren't quite right puts me more on edge than some monster I can clearly see. I also greatly appreciate the moments of levity and humor injected, even during the climaxes of some of these arcs. The show strikes a really good balance of lighthearted comedy with heavy subject matters. It also helps that the jazzy opening number puts you in a mindset that every story is going to turn out okay, and you should just sit back and enjoy yourself. Of the first 2 arcs that I watched, my favorite part was definitely the Trial of Fears in episode 4. Even though I thought the main story of the Sea Bishop was pretty uninteresting, seeing the dynamic of all the characters and getting insight into their worst fears was a really effective method for fleshing each of them out. It also happened to be the funniest scene with the characters bickering with each other and trying to fool the fish-headed biwa player. All in all, an insanely stylish show for those who might enjoy a few goosebumps without the fear of wetting themselves while watching. Probably a fun one to watch with friends and family who aren't as familiar with anime as well. These ghost stories are easy to enjoy and won't keep you up at night. Well, sleep tight, and dream of tomorrow's installment of AniMay17.